the Quinn Marr Show.
This show is brought to you by Bing Pot Trivia. How many times have you been to a trivia night where it just felt like somebody reading questions? Well, Bing Pot Trivia prides themselves on bringing high-energy, dynamic hosts to every event. The show leans heavily on visual elements. Their questions are designed to make you laugh or roll your eyes, while also challenging your knowledge on pop culture, high school science, culinary arts, and everything in between. Their typical show runs 5 rounds, including a photo round, general knowledge on pop culture, riffs on different game shows, absurd 50-50 questions, and a super sweet music round. Check out bingpottrivia.com today to book your trivia night. Again, that is at bingpottrivia.com. Tell my boy Danny that your friend Quinn sent you. All right, let's get on with the show. My next guest is part of some Canadian TV royalty. Going back to 1998, she's been a part of the 90s and 2000s babies' lives for over 25 years. She danced with the Wiggles, she hung out with Bear in the Big Blue House, and she even explored her own backyard. And of course, she's gone animated. But now she's here with me. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Quinn Marr Show, Gisele Corinthious. Gisele, what is going on?
Hi. Oh, no, I'm excited to chat with you. I tend to ramble sometimes, so just make sure you cut me off.
Hey, this is perfect. This is a perfect place for you to ramble. So
okay. That's good.
Yeah, I love that. How's it going?
It's good. Everything's great. Yeah, I'm enjoying, gosh, what can I tell you? I'm just enjoying life, reconnecting with people like you who grew up watching me on TV. I think that's just the coolest thing. So,
awesome.
That I don't know, that's just extremely, it's become more and more of a thing, and I'm really enjoying that, so that's what's new and makes me happy.
Awesome. Well, I am really, really pumped to have you on here. It's weird now, going from watching you on TV to now, I feel like I'm on TV with you right now, so this is pretty cool. So yeah, again, thank you so much.
You are
for coming on here. I just wanted to get started because you got a really interesting career path and just the way the trajectory of it. So I want to start off you growing up. So you're from Montreal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
From Montreal. But I've come to Toronto my whole life because my grandparents were here.
True.
So so it's actually funny. Sorry, do you want to finish asking me?
No, go ahead.
I'm already rambling.
No, go ahead.
I've already started. Okay, so I'm from Montreal. I was actually born in Toronto. And then I moved to Montreal when I was 1 year old.
Oh.
Nobody ever knows I was born here. But anyway, my parents, they met at U of T and University of Toronto. And then so they when they got married, they were in university res, and they had 2 kids at that point. So I was the second. And then they moved to Montreal because my dad got a job in Montreal at that time. And that's where my brother was born. And so I was brought up in Montreal, but my grandparents, my mom's parents, they lived in Toronto. So we were always coming here, doing that drive down the 401 my whole life. And it's just kind of neat for my mom too, because my mom now comes to visit her grandkids.
Oh yeah, it's so weird. Now it's backwards.
Yeah, now so she comes. Yeah, my family come here to visit me. So all of our lives and my family have been between Montreal and Toronto. Very, very interesting.
It's weird that how it's backwards like that.
Yeah, because did I leave that part when I moved to Toronto? See,
no, you're good.
I moved to Toronto years later, and actually I went to U of T at one point, so it's just kind of interesting.
That's pretty cool. I love the full circle how that works. It's no one obviously could have predicted that happening, right?
Yeah, and it's even funnier because my eldest daughter, she's 18, and she is now interested in going to school in Montreal.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, we should not move there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see. She's applying to all sorts of universities. That's what's going on right now. But we'll see if she ends up in Montreal. And then it's really crazy.
I remember this being such a nerve-wracking time when I was in grade 12, just being worried if you're going to be accepted, if you're going to get accepted to your top school. I remember, it was so stressful.
Yeah. Well, I find the whole application process, times have changed.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Yeah, since I went to university. But anyway, yeah, just the application process is massive, and everything is very difficult. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
about when you're like, just to get into these universities, they're tough,
Yeah,
you know?
see,
And then,
I'm
yeah,
lucky. I'm dumb, so I didn't go to university. I went to college, so I'm pretty
yeah,
good for that. And I went for broadcasting. So I mean, no, I don't want to knock the program, but I don't
yeah.
think it was the most difficult program to get into. So I
Okay,
mean,
got
yeah.
you.
So
Is it
I'll
still, but do you think it's still like that, or do you think it's
I don't
more
know, because
challenging?
like
You don't know.
now that I think about it, it would have been 10 years ago that I had applied and got accepted, because then I
Yeah.
would have went in the fall of 2014. So I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. I wonder about colleges, because for sure, universities are like that. And I don't even know about CEGEPs. In Montreal, there's
mhm,
CEGEPs too. So I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, actually, I think they are more difficult, because I'm thinking about my nephew. But anyway, yeah,
right.
I
Interesting.
digress into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, like university applications are tough. They're very lengthy. And then, and she's in a pretty good position. Like, she's interested in a lot of things. So we'll see what
Nice.
comes out of it. I think her hard decision is going to be, what she wants to do, as a lot of people, struggle with figuring out what they
Oh,
actually want to pursue, right? Yeah,
100%. And I
yeah.
remember there was a few people in my school that, like, I think it's 5 schools you apply to. They didn't do the same program all 5. I think that maybe they did like 4 and 1, 3 and 2. We don't have to get into like what your daughter is applying for, but is she going like for all the schools the same
No,
program?
she's not. She's like,
Oh,
she's not 100% sure what she wants to do. So yeah,
interesting.
she's like, yeah, that's going to be her challenge, is figuring out what she wants to do. And you shouldn't really base it on where you want to live. Like, she ideally would love to experience living in Montreal, is what she says. But anyway, we'll
Right.
see. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on the program if she gets in over there. Here, I mean, we're in a lucky position too. The other massive change that's happened is the prices of university now in Montreal and Quebec, especially. They just Legault over there doubled the price, the cost to attend university
Wow.
in Quebec, which is another whole thing. But we're in a very lucky position, because by total weird coincidence, she was born in Montreal, because we went there one Christmas. When I was pregnant, and she was due to be born at the end of January.
Mhm.
And then she ended up being born like on December 27th. And so
Wow.
in Quebec. So she was born in Montreal. So we're very lucky. We actually don't even pay Ontario fees to go to
Oh,
her
that's
province. We're paying Quebec
right.
fees because she was born there. So that's a good thing. If she does go to McGill, it's cheaper than her going, or to Concordia, it's cheaper than her
Right.
going to
Yeah. Hey,
university
there's a loophole
in
for everyone that's
Ontario.
wondering. If you need to want cheaper fees, there you go.
Yeah, go pregnant
Yeah.
around
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I love
around
that.
your due date.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I just want to get into, like, first off, you just as like a kid, like, what was a young Gisele like maybe not toddler, but like before 10 years old? Like, what exactly the kind of person were you?
I love that question. I love it. You might be surprised, but I was very shy.
Huh, really?
I was very shy. Yeah. I feel like I still have a bit of that, but not most people say, no, you're such an extrovert. But I'm like, no, I've got introvert happening, especially now
Yeah.
as I get older. But yeah, when I was really young, I was shy, and yeah. And then it was only, everything changed around when I was 11 years old. I went to a day camp, and I know that I made a best friend, who was just like pulled me out of my shell, and and then yeah, then it was good times, and so
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Huh. So was the day camp just like a regular, like, it wasn't like a theater or anything like that? It was just like a regular day camp?
No, that was just it was a sports camp,
Oh,
actually.
nice.
It was sports. I was really into soccer growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And yeah, so, but it was all sports, and yeah, it was just like a day camp in Montreal. And yeah, just, we had a lot of fun, and for whatever reason, I guess that I know that was definitely a pivot, was 11 years old. 11
Interesting.
was like, just I was not as shy as I once was. For sure, I was. Plus, you know what? I also went to French school in Montreal, going to elementary school.
Yep.
So starting in kindergarten, I was like full day French, and I'm an Anglo Quebecer.
Yep.
So you know, French was my second language, and so even that, I think that had a lot to do with me being a lot more shy and quiet, and even though I had English friends at school, and we spoke English a lot of the time, but yeah, I think that had something to do with the fact that I was maybe, just quieter or something. I'm sure it has something to do with that. I remember, like, when I started kindergarten, I was the kid who was crying every day, even before that in preschool. I even remember it, but my mother reminds me of it. I used to cry and cry to go to school. Like when I was 4 years old.
To go to school, not even.
Sorry, for my mother to leave me. This was like kind of like 4 years old. So I think it was like in Montreal, that was at that time. I guess it would, in your time, it'd be JK, junior kindergarten. But back then it was nursery school. Like you just went to kindergarten and then grade 1, you did 1 year of kindergarten. So this was like nursery school. So I used to bawl my eyes out when my mom would drop me off. And I even have a picture of me when I'm 4 years old, and that, your kind of like school class picture thing. And my eyes they're bloodshot from bawling my eyes out, and I used to freak out that my mom was leaving me. So that's so there was shyness and a lack of confidence or whatever. I was really not happy about going to school. And then also in kindergarten, that continued in kindergarten. And again, it was like also, I think, being put in a French school. And I remember in kindergarten, in my class, like all these little kids are speaking French to me, and I was English, and they would all, and I was very small. I was always tiny. I was always the smallest of my class for years. And so when we'd play, I remember we'd play like house, and then, they'd always want me to be the baby. And so I think there was a lot of that, these little French kids pulling me around and then speaking French to me, and I didn't understand what was happening. And then
I'd be so confused.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was so confused. And then I used to be that kid crying and crying. I don't know if you had one in your class, but crying and like pushing the door. I remember pushing the door to leave the classroom in kindergarten, like just pushing that bar and pushing it, wanting to just leave. Like I was not a happy camper.
That's so crazy, because like then seeing you on TV and everything, you would have no idea that you were that kid. It's like little Gisele needed Giselle's big backyard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so cute. That's so funny. That's true. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
It was interesting you're talking about the whole like French, like just everyone speaking French, and then you obviously English being your first language. So then what would you guys do at home then? Like would you try to like speak French?
No, it was
just straight English always.
English, and it was we were English, and my parents, I mean they spoke English with us. It's interesting. My mom is actually born in England, moved to Canada when she was very young, and my dad was born in Egypt. And so his second language was first, he was like, speaking Arabic, but because my mom's English, they didn't, there was no Arabic in my house. It was, with extended family, yes, but not within our just little nuclear family.
Right.
So they would speak English at home. And then my dad actually, I think he spoke French before English. He even taught in French at University of Montreal. He was a professor. And so he's still in Montreal, but anyway, so they're still there. But anyway, so but he's retired, but that's why I say he was teaching in French. A lot of Egyptians, they that's why actually my name is Gisele. It's a French name. A lot of Egyptians, they learn a second language as French, and also they during the time of Napoleon, that's when a lot of that's when the French was introduced, and also a lot of Egyptians have French names. And my grandmother was the first Gisele Corinthious. So anyway, so that's where my name like Gisele. A lot of people, there are two things people think when of my nationality. Number one, they think I'm French, and especially if I say I'm from Montreal, but it's not in my blood whatsoever.
Right.
They think that because my name is a French name, Gisele, because it was even Giselle's Big Backyard. They wanted to keep the accent, so it's
Oh yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you could picture the accent, right? It
Yeah.
was Giselle's Big Backyard,
Mm.
and then what was I going to tell you? I was telling you, oh yeah, and my last name is Greek. My last name is Greek from my Egyptian side. That's carried back from a few generations.
Huh.
So Corinthious is Greek, but my dad's actually Egyptian. I'm Egyptian. I'm not. I'm not Greek. You
That's
know.
so interesting.
Although
What a
believe me,
combination.
yeah. But when you know, like, there's the World Cup of soccer and Greece is winning, believe me, I'm like
Yeah, yeah,
using
exactly.
my little napkin. I'm
Yeah,
in there.
at that
Like,
point, you're
these
more
are my
Greek than
people.
anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm a very proud Greek suddenly.
that's amazing. I love that. But
Yeah.
that must have been difficult, like growing up and English being your first language in a city that was basically all French, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was, well, it's like, was it difficult? I mean, it was when I started, but then, you meet, first of all, you have other Anglo friends in your French school and you become friends with the French kids. It was just at the start, and then I'm so grateful now that I speak French, like I
Right.
really am, and I'm a very proud Montrealer, even though a lot of the politics suck. And let's just
Mhm.
put that on record.
Mhm. Yes, they
Really
do.
bad, really bad. Anyway, but yeah, so at the beginning it was tough, but then you integrate, and then it's all all fine. And what's cool too is that the Anglo population is very small, so it's kind of like 6 degrees of separation between English people there. It's very easy to connect people. Everybody kind of knows everybody. It's very
Right.
interesting. It's really like a small town feel like that when it comes to the English community. And I really like that too.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. One thing that I found really interesting about you while I was doing research about you for this was a story you told about when a production company came to your school when you were 7. Can you get into that?
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yes, I don't remember saying that, but yeah. So yeah, this was in French school in grade 1, and there was this production company that came to the school for a Jello commercial, and they were looking for some kids to be in the commercial, and I was fascinated. It was the first time that television, like I think I think I was 6 years old, and I think it was the first time I realized, wow, you could be on TV. Like, I thought, wow, that's so crazy and that's so cool. And anyway, they asked a few kids to audition. They did not ask me. But looking back, I'm like, I totally understand why. First of all, my French, back then it would have had a very strong English accent. Like, I mean, French was
True.
very new to me, right? And also I was very shy. So they did ask my best friend at the time, and I remember feeling like, oh, she's so lucky. And
Mhm.
I was very shy and stuff, but I looked at her and I thought, wow, that is just so cool. And that's the first time I've ever had that seed planted really about acting. That
Mhm.
acting is out there, and I wanted it. There was something in me that I was like, I want that. It's funny.
Right.
It's funny
And
remembering that, just especially because it was like, I was even there was like, I wasn't even qualified to audition.
right. So then how did you get in the commercial?
Oh, sorry. No, maybe there was some confusion. I was never in it.
Oh,
I
you
didn't
weren't
get
in
to
it.
audition. No. So maybe, I don't know where you
Oh,
saw that, where
right.
it sounded like, maybe I made it sound like I was in it. No, I wasn't in it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna say
No,
'cause
I
that would have
didn't.
been crazy from going from them not even
Yeah.
ask you to be them being in it. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes more
no, I
sense then.
wasn't. I
Okay.
wasn't. I didn't make the cut. I didn't make the cut many times. I haven't been on a ton of auditions in my life, but let me tell you, like, not compared to a lot of actors out there, but
Right.
I didn't make the cut many, many
Right,
times.
right. Fair, hey, fair. That happens. It happens.
It
Um,
happens. Yeah.
so then after that, like you said, like you think there was like a seed planted. So then maybe not like
Yeah.
that year, maybe not for a few more years. Did you start being in like school productions and
Yes.
everything like that?
Yeah.
And were you also in like outside school productions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So all it. So at that time, yes, it planted the seed. And then when I was in grade 5, we had to write a play, and or no, we didn't have to write a play. We had to write some kind of story, but we did. No, we did. It had to be. Then we had to write a story, like a play, basically,
Yep.
only a couple pages long, and then we had to act it out. We were in groups of 4 to write this thing. Well, I was so excited about writing this this little play, and then even more excited when it came to putting on the play. I loved it. I took it so seriously. I was so into it. So it was with 3 other friends of mine. And anyway, like, so even just making like I made these big backdrops, like I got these big sheets of paper, and I drew the scenery on the backdrop, and then choosing our costumes and stuff to make this, to perform this play in front of our class. And I loved it. And I became kind of the director in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the teacher thought it was so great that then she asked us to perform it in front of the kindergarten class. Okay. And so I remember just being so thrilled to be asked, and I just loved the experience. And so right then, that is when I said to my mother, I really want to pursue like acting, or I wanted to be an actor. It's when I started talking about that. So she signed me up to start to doing like, there was not within the school, there was no such thing as drama classes at that time. This was in elementary school, right? I'm right, 11, 12. Remember, that's that age when I was coming out of my shell too, right? I was like, yep. I was about 11, 12 years old. And then, so she signed me up for different summer camps, like theater camps. And I did a lot of that, improv camps throughout the school year. So that kept going. I was doing a lot of theater, loved theater. So yeah, that's how that all started.
Interesting. I love that. And then obviously you went to school, like you went to college.
Yeah, to CEGEP.
And what was the program you took?
So it was called professional theater. Okay. And actually, the little side note here, what's interesting too, is that I was also, there was a time, like I did love acting. I wanted to do that, but I was also very interested in the visual arts, like drawing, painting. And so before I went into the theater program, I actually studied in CEGEP. Because it was like at that point when you're like not sure. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Plus, believe it or not, I really, as much as I had a lot of experience in acting, I didn't have full confidence to say I want to pursue acting as a career. It's like I didn't have just the confidence to admit that I think to anybody, even though I felt that. So I was, for some reason, I thought it was okay to say, well, I'm going to pursue the visual arts. Like they're both
at least it's a little more generic, like more general.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And maybe like being an actor is too, like, I don't know. I don't know what, but there was something about it. I did have the confidence to even say it, to even want to really pursue it. So I did visual arts before, a creative arts program before going into theater. When I was doing creative arts, I did have like a drama program, and the head of the theater program was the prof. And then he's the one who suggested that I audition for theater school for the program, which is called the Dome Theater in Montreal, and is part of Dawson College, part of their program, that CEGEP. And so I auditioned, and then I got in. I think I was also really I think it boosted my confidence, him telling me that he thinks I should audition for it. He's like, I think you should really be in acting or something. And having somebody say that to me, who, I think that helped with my confidence, because I definitely, lacked the confidence.
100%. So what's that audition process like then for a college, like a performing arts college?
So you had to present, I can't remember if it was 1 or a 2-minute monologue. I don't remember what the monologue was, but you also had to sing a song, and I remember that because.
Well, what if you didn't sing? Like,
I didn't.
Oh yeah. So then, how would that work?
Listen to this voice.
Right. So what if I just walked up and I was like, well, I don't sing. Like, what would they do?
Yeah. So you definitely had to sing. But here's the thing is like, I think maybe I even said that to my teacher, like, what can I don't sing. Maybe I said it to the prof who's encouraged me to audition. Maybe I mentioned it. I don't know. Because I knew that you absolutely had to sing, even if you sang happy birthday, even if you don't have a beautiful voice, which I was far from anything near a singer. So you did have to, yeah, you had to sing a song, and I know exactly what I sang. So I don't remember the monologues, but I know what I sang. And the song was Mercedes Benz. I don't know if you'd know it, but it's by Janis Joplin. She's like this big hippie singer back in the 60s. And it's like, oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive horses. Anyway, so drive Porsches, not horses, but anyway, drive Porsches. Anyway, so that song, I chose that because her voice was similar to mine. Like, it's very raspy, and it's a fun song, and also it's a very, I don't remember, like, gosh, I haven't heard it in so long, but it's a very known song, like, whatever, well, I guess not this generation.
No, but yeah.
My generation for sure knows that song. And so also was a very like acoustic-y song. And I remember I was singing it, I think just clapping my hands. And before I did the audition, I recorded myself on a little tape recorder.
Yep.
And I played it back, and my sister heard it from the other room. And I don't know, she was singing along or something like that. I'm like, did it sound good? And she's like, well, yeah, I love Janis Joplin. I love that song or something. And I'm like, no, that was me. And she's, get out. She's like, it was. So I remember thinking, okay, I'm ready for the audition, because she thought it was me. It was her singing the song when it was me. So yeah, I just chose a song that worked well with this voice, right? Which I still do to this day. I love karaoke. When I go to karaoke, I always choose songs that work well with this voice.
That's smart. That's a really smart move from you.
Yeah, because it just sells it better or whatever. Like, because I'm not a singer. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. So, and how long was the program?
So that was a 3-year program.
3 years.
Yeah, and then later I decided. Yeah, so at that point, I moved to Toronto because when I graduated from theater school, there were agents that came to see you perform in your last year, and then they come to see if they're going to sign you on to their roster. Now, there were not many until this day. There's not many Anglo agents in Montreal. It's a much smaller community in the acting world there. But anyway, there were very few, like 3 English agents, I think, back when I graduated. Anyway, so, they don't have they have their actors, their roster of people that they have in their agencies. And anyway, so they come and check you out and see if they're going to sign you on. Well, I wasn't asked by any of them to be signed on. And I remember being very upset. Like, I was so upset about it. I was like, I just thought, yeah, my acting career is over. And so, yeah, at that point, and the thing is as well, it's like I was getting lead roles in theater school. Like, I had great roles. I felt confident about my work. So when I was very shocked, right? When I didn't get an agent, but you got to think about it too, right? Like, sometimes you're just not what they're looking for. They, I'm 5'2", I've got dark hair in Montreal. Like, who isn't 5'2" and dark hair? Things like that, like, if you have that in your agency, like, that your chances even become smaller of being signed on or whatever. Maybe it's because I couldn't sing. I don't know. So yeah, it doesn't matter. The point is that I wasn't signed on, and then yeah, like a few months later, I came to visit my best friend in Toronto and my grandparents, and that's when my best friend's roommate introduced me to his agent in Toronto, and she said if I move to Toronto within a month, she'll sign me on. So I basically said, okay. I didn't even there was no going away party, barely had a chance to tell anybody. It was busy. I remember it was busy. Plus, my dad that summer he was teaching in England, or that fall or something. But anyway, yeah, because it was in the fall. But anyway, he was teaching in England. And I also knew I wanted to go and visit him in London. And so I thought, well, I better do that before I do this big move to Toronto. So it was even like with it, like, honestly, it was like within 2 weeks, I booked a trip to London, England to visit him. And I came back to Montreal for like 2 weeks, packed my stuff. And my mom drove me down the 401 to move to Toronto into my grandparents' house. So
That's
it was
amazing.
very, very quick decision. And when I moved, I thought, okay, well, I'll do the acting scene for like 2 years and I'll move back. Like in my head, I was moving to Toronto for like 2 years, and that was going to be it.
Right.
I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, that didn't happen. Anyway, I've been here a long time now.
I love that. I love that. So then while you're auditioning and stuff, like once you moved to Toronto, what kind of roles were you getting before the Nook?
Oh, God. Okay, well, I didn't go. Funny. I barely went in any auditions. My agent, who was terrible at the time, she was terrible. So many ways. So many ways. Yeah. Anyway, and so she, first of all, yeah, she didn't send me on auditions. She told me that I looked too young for the roles that were out there, and so I was not sophisticated enough for the roles that that they were auditioning for. And so there was that. I remember saying that, not sophisticated enough. I'm like, yeah, but like, give me the role and let me act sophisticated.
Yeah.
I might not be sophisticated, but I can act it.
Exactly.
I can fake it. Yeah. Anyway, that's the whole point of acting. Yeah. So she, so I didn't go on many auditions at all before the Nook. And I was doing some theater, but I really wanted to do the acting, the TV acting. I was really into that at that point, because the theater, first of all, yeah, for so many reasons, but basically my agent was a TV agent, not a theater agent. So I'd have to find the theater jobs on my own. She was not, so I was doing some professional theater gigs, whatever, like a lot of kids shows, believe it or not. So I was doing that. And then, after like, a couple of years of me doing the acting circuit, I found it very disappointing, very disheartening. Just so much rejection in it. Like, well, even, when I did go at auditions, I wasn't getting the parts. When I'd go, it felt like such a big deal to even get an audition. But anyway, so then I was working in restaurants and bars, and everybody in Toronto was an actor. That was the other thing. I came from Montreal, where it was like tiny little pocket of actors, very few agents. And then I come to Toronto, I'm like, everybody's an actor in Toronto. So every waiter that I worked with at the bar that I worked in, and like all the staff, everybody was an actor. So then, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I was really stressing. I was struggling to figure it out. And my dad, who was a university prof, he's like, well, you should go back to school and, figure out a backup plan to acting, maybe just get, just have a backup plan, just figure something else out. So I thought, well, at least that'll give me some kind of focus for a while. And I told him, like, if I started, I'll finish it, because he was going to pay for me to go to university. He was going to support me to do that. So I thought, okay, well, if I started, that was the one promise I made, I'll finish it. So then I thought, well, I love kids. So that's the only thing I really like are kids. So I'm like, well, I'll go and become a kindergarten teacher. So I went to University of Toronto. And then I was doing a BA in anthropology, which is pretty funny to me because it's just kind of so random. Yeah. But it was just kind of an easy thing to get into. Honestly, that's it. I was just like, well, this doesn't, seem too tough. It seems kind of interesting. They talk about different cultures. I was in the social cultural part of anthropology was my main interest. So I'm like, well, I'm learning about cultures, and that's cool. And then I thought, okay, and then I'll get my degree and go on to teachers college. So that was the plan. And I graduated and I was all ready to go to teachers college. And that's when there was an ad in the paper for the Nook, for TVOKids to yeah, what's cool about it, it was, and what a lot of people don't realize, it was you know, the job was to perform in a preschool show, but just mainly to start a preschool show from complete scratch. Like, it didn't exist, and it's like, here, go and make a preschool show with one other person. It was like starting a YouTube channel. Honestly, that's what it was. We look back and we laugh so much because it was so much like a YouTube channel, which of course YouTube didn't exist back then, but it really was like YouTube. You know, I mean, like, we were doing our own, making our own props. I did my own makeup. I did my own hair. Wow. Like, it was always hanging out. My hair was always such a mess. You know, writing our ideas. It was just like, I'd bring my stuffed animals. I had a few I brought from Montreal to Toronto. So I had some at my place, and I'd bring them when I needed like stuffed animals. Like, we really didn't have access to even many props. It was wild. So if we needed stuff, sometimes we would just cut it out of paper and we'd have like, it was crazy. Sometimes it was just so basic. That was before TVO was unionized. Things changed later. It was unionized. So then you had a professional makeup artist and props person, but it was always a teeny tiny team that we worked with, always, from the start of the Nook right through to the end of Gisele's Big Backyard. We were like a creative team. It was really like 2 to 3 people writing it at one time. Of course, then we have a big crew not in the Nook. Gisele's Big Backyard had a big crew, professionals, you know. But when it was in the Nook, it was like, it was one technician in the little I don't want to say not sound booth, but in the control room, you know, and it'd have like a little switcher there, and would switch the cameras, and it was very interesting. That's how it started. It was like, there were very few people that started this show that became very big, very fast. So that was kind of cool, you know. And I look back, I'm like, oh, it started like a YouTube channel. It was like, yeah, it didn't exist, and then it was really liked by kids, you know. So
wow, that's cool. What I was wondering was, like, because obviously, like, this was like your break for you, like the Nook. So were you having to do anything else in the industry at the same time, like at the beginning of the Nook, or was it strictly Nook? That was
I literally just came out of university. It was wild. I came out of university, and I was going to go off to teachers college. But when I finished university, my dad now was teaching that summer in France, in Nice, France. Mm-hmm. And so so I went to go and visit him, and then my boyfriend at the time, he saw the ad in the paper. He told me about it while I was in France, and then he was coming to France the following week. So he said, like, I really think this job is made for you. You should do this. And so he said, well, you know, when we're in France, we'll shoot an audition tape, a VHS tape, and then submit it. And yeah, so that's what I did. That's, long story short, we shot this audition tape, and at that time I was in a university. I was in school full time. There was no acting gigs. I did work during that time at the King Edward Hotel in Toronto. Was I working there during that time? I think so. Yes, I was working in a hotel downtown Toronto, you know, just to support myself while I was in school. So I was working, but there was no time for acting gigs. I was always doing homework. I was busy. Right. So yeah, so I stopped the whole acting thing. But then there was this ad in the paper, and then I sent him my audition tape, and apparently like 2,000 people had sent in tapes. They had to watch all these VHS tapes. Yeah. And then I got called in to audition. So I went in for a few auditions, and then eventually I was told that I got the job.
That's amazing. So like the beginning of the Nook for you, like, it must have been pretty cool for like your friends and family seeing you on TV, because they'd never seen you on TV before. So like, were you, I know obviously like not many adults without kids were watching kids TV, but like, did you hear from a lot of like friends and family about the show?
Yeah. So first of all, even for me, it was mind blowing getting the job. Let me just make that very clear. Like I was just my world, everything changed. My whole everything changed. I tell you, like I mean, when I actually got the call, I hung up the phone. I literally threw up in the bathroom.
Wow.
I cried. I was trying to scream my roommate's name she was in the basement and tell her to come up, crying, and I'm like barfing. And I got the job. So for me, it was massive. Let's not downplay that. So let's start there. And then seeing myself on TV, I'm like, wow, I'm on TV. This is so wild. It was surreal, crazy. I've never been on TV before. I've never been on TV. So that was massive for me. Now, my family, yes, over the moon. Now, remember, they're in Montreal. So, yes, friends were definitely excited for me. But at the time, like my friends didn't have kids, right? So I didn't know, right. I didn't have this. It wasn't the same experience because I was young. Like my friends, nobody had kids. We were partying. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I didn't get it, if that's what you mean. Did I hear about it from adults with kids? Only when I met them in public. So yes, when that happened, which was very soon after I got the job, everything was so life-changing. Everything was just bigger than life and crazy. Like the start of it was just wild.
That's awesome. Now, when the show like progressed and everything, and like you yourself like were featured on the show more, and like you were gaining more popularity, what was that like for you? Because like it went from being the Nook to like the show with Gisele on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's what you're saying, but the Nook, I know
you're humble and you want to be modest about it, but like at one point Gisele was bigger than the show, which I think is why we'll get into it. Gisele's Big Backyard started. So
yeah, funny. I'm not even trying to be humble or whatever. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. I guess I haven't thought about it like that. Mm-hmm. I do know that the Nook was like, it was so big, the Nook. Mm-hmm. So I guess you're right, but maybe I didn't feel it. There were things that were going on. Yeah. Gisele's Big Backyard. Yes, it was very big, but I think the Nook, to me, everything was so like just such a life changer, from being like, from being completely anonymous and then being recognized in public all the time. Like those were massive changes. And even at the beginning with that, I didn't even deal with it that well, to be honest with you. Like it was a very big change, and maybe that's where the shyness in me still exists or something. I found it a lot, and then I started to really love it because you get the feedback, you see the little kids, and they talk to you, and then I loved it. I focused on the kids; it was great, but at the start, it was just so overwhelming. That's the word for it, overwhelming. So that was so massive as it was. Plus, at the time, the Nook was also, on the coattails of another massive show, which was the Crawl Space in the afternoons, right? So that was massive. That was very popular. And then we became the preschool morning show, right? That was the afternoon show. So we were now in the mornings. So it already had this so much respect that it was TVOKid. It's such a big following, and they pumped it up in the afternoon to come and watch the morning. So it became very popular very quick, and it was just Then I adjusted to the fame part of it. I can't imagine being one of these massive celebrities who have ultra fame. I can't even imagine. Like this was just the perfect amount. I never, even in my wildest dreams, when I wanted to do acting, I never thought about those things. I was not one of these actors having these big ambitions. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to be a big actor. And none of that. That was not even, I don't even know. I didn't have these massive goals. I was just like, this is what I like doing. I was kind of like more of like a one day at a time kind of thing. I was not like having this, big dreams, I guess. I didn't. Anyway, so so then, which is always big backyard, you're right. You'd think like, like you're right. It was, I think it was already big. So when Gisele's Big Backyard came about, you are right about, the name, having my name being part of the show. Never did I imagine my name was going to be on the show. We were trying to brainstorm a name, and then it was my boss who said, after, like, my bigger boss, I had a producer, the two of us were brainstorming names and stuff, and never even thought about my name, a part of the show. Are you kidding me? Like, never in a million years. And I think, like, I just didn't have those aspirations, and I don't know, it never occurred to me. But so we had all these names, and we knew it was going to be a backyard. So it was like Giggle Garden and Garden, whatever, things like that. I remember. And there was the bigger boss who said, listen, whatever name you come up with, you have to have Gisele in the beginning. Gisele's name, that brand, it needs to be in there. It needs to be her name, the brand, keep it that, blah, blah, blah. I was amazed. I remember thinking, what? I have a show with my name on it. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that. Like, it's kind of crazy. Especially because I never even thought these things were ever possible for me, the one who was like, there's a lot of rejection. A lot of rejection. I was told, the one who was told you're not sophisticated enough, and this and that, and whatever. So then, so all that was amazing. That I had this, my name part of the show when it became Gisele's Big Backyard. But also, I think by then, what happened was, right when I was told we were going to move into a bigger studio and have a bigger, like a big crew, and we're going to have puppets, and the show is expanding and all this stuff. The thing is, when I was taking that all in, but I had something bigger than that going on with me, and that's that I was pregnant. I just discovered I was pregnant when that was my first kid. So I have 3 kids. So so I was so, like, when something is so life-changing, like knowing I was pregnant, I was married at that point, and so so that was so massive to me. Nobody knew. We wanted to tell our family first, but they're in Montreal, and we wanted to tell them in person, and we wanted to wait 3 months because usually there's a waiting period of 3 months for anybody who's watching this. If you don't know, often they suggest wait 3 months when you're pregnant, because that's a very delicate, fragile time with your body. And a lot of people like to hold on to the news to make sure everything is all safe and secure with the baby before announcing it. So we wanted, my husband, who's from Montreal too, we met in Toronto, but he's from Montreal. But anyway, so we wanted to wait to go and tell our families. And and during that waiting period, like newly pregnant, within those whatever, I was just very new pregnant when they told me this. I mean, I don't even know if I was like a week or 2 weeks pregnant. I mean, I just found out, and they're like, hey, okay, they have this meeting, and they tell me, we're changing the show. It's going to be this and that, and starting, and talking about this is all these changes. And in my head, all I could think about was that I was pregnant. So the truth is that, like, Gisele's Big Backyard became like a good decade, more than a decade, of me being in another place, in my own personal life, because I had 3 babies during that time, 3 pregnancies. And also telling my boss, I mean, it was terrifying too, knowing I'm pregnant. I'm like, I'm going to tell them they have all these plans for this show with my name and the title. Like, it was crazy. And then, also wondering, how are they going to react, and how are we going to shoot this when I'm pregnant? But they were amazing. They were like, well, we're going to just shoot a lot of stuff early, as quick as we can. We're going to shoot like mad while you're not showing. I mean, right from the start of Gisele's Big Backyard, I mean, it fascinates me. The opening song is one of the first things we shot. There was clips of that were not taken from like other segments. They were shot for the purpose of the opening opening music and the opening credits,
Mhm.
where you see Giselle's Big Backyard come up. Anyway, those, like, I am pregnant, all those shots, pregnant, like you can kind of tell, like if you look, like you might question it a bit. I mean, yeah, I mean, I could see it, like some of it, like I'm wearing a yellow raincoat and I kind of like I remember trying to like kick my legs up and going, ooh, that doesn't feel the same as it normally does, because your stomach is not as strong or whatever. Anyway, your stomach muscles. But they were like, yeah, we're going to shoot a ton. And then once you start to show, you'll be behind a fence and whatever. They didn't want to share it with a lot of people. Question like, well, why didn't you let the audience know? Why didn't you share that? What's the big deal? And I understand their reasons. And that was just that you didn't want to confuse the kids, like explaining like, I'm getting big and pregnant. Where's the baby? Like we see puppets. Like I would think that's confusing if you're not, if you're suddenly like talking about your pregnancy or like it. I understood why they would not, want that to be on television. So we masked the pregnancy with what I was wearing behind, masked behind the fence or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, it was like very big to be going into Giselle's Big Backyard for sure. But it was also because I there's so much of it interconnected with my life, like, that maybe all of those feelings were overshadowed a bit by having my own, baby. Like even sitting on I remember the first time I felt the baby, like before you actually feel a baby kick, you get these like kind of butterfly feelings in your tummy. It's like, it almost feels like little flutters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting on the mushroom, like we were about to roll camera, and I'm like, oh my God, I felt the baby. Yeah. I have butterflies in my, I mean, it could be more perfect because there's butterflies in my big backyard. And then butterflies in my stomach, as much as like, Giselle's Big Backyard was a huge phenomenon. Like it was, loved by kids. It was really great. And it was cool because it was just, it was just a lot more. I think it left the YouTube feel to becoming a real show, So there was things about that was really nice for me to experience all that. But as for bigger than the Nook, I don't know. Both were big in their own ways, right?
Oh, 100%. So then you're talking about how you guys shot like a ton before, like obviously you got bigger and then gave birth. So you must have shot a lot because you probably needed to do enough for a season right off the hop, no?
Yeah, we shot a ton. We shot a ton. Yes, we did. We really.
It's probably a condensed schedule, right? At that point, to make sure that to get it all done, and then you gave birth, and then you took time off.
Because I was going to go on a year maternity leave. So the good thing is at that time we started, there were sticks was one of the puppets. So there were puppets to work with too. So the puppets, Jay was born. And it's funny because my daughter's name is Jade, and that's the other thing. When they named the puppet Jay, was a blue jay. She was a blue jay. I wasn't there for that. I was on maternity leave. But they told me, and we named her Jay, kind of like Jade, like your baby. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's kind of cool. So those they were born at the same time. So
they would shoot those like scenes kind of things like way after they were like you weren't there because they needed to shoot you as much as possible.
They shot as much as they could with me, and a lot. We were shooting a lot. I don't remember how many days, but way more than we normally were shooting. Like it was, everything had to happen immediately. I mean, it was nuts. Like it was like, right. I mean, we were already starting to shoot some stuff. Now it's coming back to me. We were starting to shoot, but nobody knew I was pregnant. That was it. Right? Until that so we were shooting, and then I was actually, because I was waiting to go to Montreal to go and tell our families, and we had a plan to wait those 3 months. So we did start shooting, but once I told them, then we had to really.
Yes.
So we did start shooting it. Sorry, it's just coming back to me because we were already, like when they started it, we were starting it really quickly. So we did start shooting, and then I was actually like I was I think the day before I was going to Montreal, finally the visit was going to happen to go and tell our families, because the 3-month mark hit. We were going to go to Montreal, tell them our news. And we were shooting that day, and I was dressed as Letterella. She's like my Viking character she does this opera, of course I can't sing, but so fake opera, terrible raspy voice opera character. She sings letters of the alphabet, the sounds, the phonetic sounds. Anyway, so I was dressed in that costume like a Viking with my long blonde braids. And we were shooting, and then all of a sudden I didn't get sick, morning sickness often. I think it happened like 3 times in my pregnancy. And that was like out of the 3 times, that was one of those times, maybe even the first time, that I had the sudden urge. I can't believe I'm talking about puke again. And then, how are we getting back to puke? So yeah, I had a sudden urge to be sick, and I suddenly was ripping off my microphone, trying to rip it out of, because it was in my hair, and then I was just like, oh, something like, I'll be back. I don't even know if I said anything. I just know I suddenly ran out of the studio, and my director and our production assistant, they followed me, and I was out in the hall, and I saw a garbage can, and I was sick. And they were like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you whatever? And I said it to them. It was the day before leaving. And I'm like, you can't tell anybody. I'm like, I'm pregnant. So I remember that. I remember that was a big deal. Oh my God. I'm like, yeah. So I told them the complete, it was just complete trust there. And they let me tell my bosses when I got back, because I had planned, which was nice. But yeah, I almost it was right to the bitter end of holding in that secret, yeah.
So when you came back, after maternity leave, and everything was more so normal on set, what was a day in the life for Gisele at that time?
Especially now, because I have a kid at home too. Yeah. So so we, the thing is that we went into the office and we wrote the show. That's another thing a lot of people don't realize. Well, I did mention it, when they said to start the show from scratch, we were researching, writing our own ideas, creating characters. It's like I said, like a YouTube channel. It was always creating, writing. So normally it would be we'd often block shoot when we'd be in studio. So it was something 3 weeks that you would be, for example, because our schedule changed up over the years, but let's say for 3 weeks you're in the office, you're at your desk, and you're writing the ideas, your scripts. You're writing your ideas for the show, you're writing your scripts. So Gisele's Big Backyards was scripted. The Nook, there was never even time to write scripts. It was it was a lot of improv in the Nook. You'd have a basic idea, but so much of it, that was the other difference. And there was something really cool about the Nook having it been so improv-y, and then Gisele's Big Backyard would be writing scripts, would have meetings, discussions, script meetings, production meetings about different characters, different ideas. So you'd be doing that for a few weeks, and then you'd go into a studio every day for a week. Now, Gisele's Big Backyard, it had a much more not relaxed schedule, but just an easier schedule physically in many ways, because in the Nook, we used to shoot at 5:30 in the morning, because it was the only time we could get our little Nook, which was actually a closet. Really, in real life, it was this it was a big closet that both the crawl space, 3 shows were shot out of this big closet. So there is the Nook, and literally with the Nook and the crawl space, it was so funny. It was a wall that you'd just slide over and then roll out a carpet when it was the Nook, roll that carpet up to slide it back, so that the crawl space, now you could put in some of their items, whatever. And then in between those 2 shows, there was an adult show that was shooting in that same studio, another TVO production. And so we had our studio time, the Nook, we got the worst end of the deal. You had to be there at 5:30 in the morning. And so, we'd, yeah, that was our schedule for shooting. Whereas with Gisele's Big Backyard, it was just, yeah, a bit later, more reasonable time that we started. I think we started shooting at 10. I think I'd usually have to be, or no, maybe 9 would shoot at. And I think, yeah, I'd have to be in makeup at like 8 a.m. I believe. Gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. So sad. But yeah, something like that.
That's
Yeah.
not bad. That's not bad.
No, and we'd shoot until like 3:30 in the afternoon,
Yeah,
sometimes later.
Yeah, that's not a terrible schedule.
No.
Like I mentioned in the intro, you did have some notable guests join you, just like
Oh, yeah.
on your shows in general. You had the Wiggles. You
Yeah.
had was it Polka Dot? What was the Polka Dot?
Pokeroo was from
Pokeroo.
Yeah. So Pokeroo became like a kind of a regular character in Gisele's Big Backyard. They wanted to kind of revive Pokeroo, I think, for the latest generation, my generation, whatever, my Giselle's Big Backyard generation, your generation, I guess, So they brought Pokeroo back to life because Pokeroo was very popular when I was a kid. And in fact, when I visit my grandparents in Toronto from Montreal, I would see polka dot shorts on TV, polka dot door actually at the time. Yeah, I would see it on TV at my grandparents.
Oh, that's so cool. What a full circle moment.
Yeah,
pretty cool because like I think honestly the Wiggles might be bigger now than they ever have been, which is pretty nuts to say because like when I was a kid they were massive, but like and in all like most of the members are different now, but it's like they were big, they were huge then, and like I think they might have gotten bigger now. It's nuts. So that's pretty cool that you were able to like hang out with them and have them guests on the show.
Yeah, right at the beginning, like right when they were we were like the first broadcaster TVO was in North America, in America. They weren't even in the States at the point. We were the first to broadcast the Wiggles.
Wow.
Our station, with me, which was kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and we even shot a music video together at the time.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is so wild to me. Yes,
that's so cool. You performed with the Wiggles.
Yeah. I don't sing on it, of course, but
hey, you're there. That means you're performing.
Yeah, but we did a music video and they were super nice and super cool. And they were, just the start of their success. Like they actually had, first of all, they came all the way from Australia to promote their show on our station. Also, I remember they had a spread of food at lunch, like they had some money just starting to flow in. I remember that being like I'm like, oh yeah, no, it was like right at the start in there. And then they just just skyrocketed. Yeah.
That's amazing. Two things I have left for you. One was I have seen you in other interviews talk about the end of Gisele's Big Backyard and that they ended production in 2016. And I think a couple times you have worded it that they ended production. Are you able to go in like what exactly happened?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can. I mean, there's really sadly not too much to say. I will tell you that there was a time a few years before it ended, there were major changes happening at TVO. A lot of new people coming in, a lot of people, who came in who didn't know who I was, kind of thing. And I'd be like, what? I'm the one on that TV or on that monitor there. Like, I don't know. Like you came to this place to work. How do you, I don't know. Anyway, so a lot of new people came in, not in the kids programming side. So a lot of new people came in. There were changes, like a lot of changes. So that was the first sign of just change, And then, a while later, the writing was just on the wall. So before it actually stopped production, it wasn't the biggest shock. I think it was like 2 years before, actually. I told my close friends in an email, I forgot about this until somebody reminded me, and telling them, I think it's over. I think the show's over. Yeah. So I had the writing on the wall strong enough 2 years prior going, this is like, I thought it was going to end at that point. And then Yeah, so I guess that's why by the time it happened was maybe, I mean, listen, I was so lucky it even lasted 2 years longer, it was on air for 18 years, well, 20 years, like it aired, but like, yeah, it was in production for a long time. So I know how lucky I am. That's so unheard of, especially in Canadian television, right? That many seasons. So, yeah, but I was like really, I remember 2 years prior, I was very shaken by the idea of it, just because it was such a part of my, here's driving me crazy. Okay. Yeah. It's just was such a part of my life. I don't even consider it a job. It was just like, kind of like the kids, everything was just so much a part of who I am to this day, who I am. Anyway, yeah, so I remember being quite upset enough to tell, close friends of mine that I think that's it. I think this is ending. And then, and I think at that time, like some of the writing on the wall for me was just like, within TVO, it was just not as, it was just not given the same kind of attention or something, like when you just feel like it didn't, it wasn't celebrated enough. That's the best way to put it, right? So then by the time, one day, like it was just, there were changes along the way, lots of changes, and my big boss left, and then another boss left, and because there were so many changes, they decided to go because they felt the changes, and the kids programming, it just didn't seem to carry as much weight or something. And then one day they decided to use the what they told me, it was like that it was just not in the budget to continue producing our show. They felt that it could just be in reruns, is what they told me. So I was like, well, how long are these reruns going to be on for? Anyway, and then so I think they just used that, they decided to put the money elsewhere, right? Like they just, that's it. I don't even know what to say. Like I mean, it was such a great show, and it was such a like household name and so loved, and it was very strong. So so it was like a big shock in that it's like, why end something that's so good? Everything good comes to an end, I guess, right? So
yeah, I guess so. Interesting. Well, it's nice that there was at least they gave you a couple extra years, I guess, of reruns, but I definitely think it should have lasted longer than it did.
Oh, thank you.
The last thing I want to talk about was that you've gone animated. So I would love for you to get into this because this is really cool. Actually, I watched a couple episodes and like the little shorts, which are nice that they're so short for kids. But can you get into that?
Yeah. So after I left TVO, I was like, really, again, back to soul searching. What am I going to do now? Right. Especially because when I was at TVO, I wasn't allowed to do anything on the outside of TVO. So, really it was like, I was starting from scratch again and going, what do I do now? So I started writing for animated series. And I actually took a writing course as well. That was something else I did. Like I was considering writing a picture book at one point. Very challenging thing to do. I have so much respect for kids' books authors. Unbelievable. Not easy. But anyway, so I was figuring things out. Anyway, so I was writing for different animated series. And then the pandemic, when it hit, I was just like missing performing. Like I really love performing. I like writing, producing shows, but I also really love performing. So I thought, you know what? Like I did the Nook. It was like a YouTube channel. It was me and with another person. Why don't I try this on my own during the pandemic and entertain the kids at home? So anyway, I started a YouTube channel during the pandemic, and then from there, during those wild pandemic times, I went on to this like a Zoom networking thing for people in the kids media industry, and then I reconnected with somebody from our industry on there named Michelle Melanson, and she's from Headspinner Productions.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so I was telling her that I have a YouTube channel, and really, like, people in our kids media industry, even during COVID, I really think talking about YouTube within the broadcast industry was still kind of like on the like outside. It was not something embraced within the end. And I almost felt like almost a bit embarrassed, to be honest, to say, well, I have a YouTube channel now. Like, I remember feeling like just intimidated or something to share that when we were doing introductions of ourselves in this like online Zoom thing. And then Michelle, who was there, she was like, oh, awesome, you're on YouTube. And she's like, oh, I just created a show, an animated series with this Canadian YouTuber, this big Canadian YouTuber. She's like, we should talk. So anyway, so we got in touch, and then we started going for like coffees, masked outside, all that stuff. And then and we really like each other, and we talked a lot about the industry and how things were starting to transition over to YouTube and streaming services, especially since the pandemic, and how the whole landscape of kids media has changed, and talk about these things. And then eventually somehow it came about, and we decided to do an animated series together, to create one and to co-produce it together. And it was like loosely based on my animated series that was called the Gisele Mishmash, my YouTube series. So it was called the Gisele Mishmash. Then the name changed to the Gisele Mashup. That's a long story and whatever. But basically, from the word mishmash at the time, we came up with an idea for this mishmash machine to have that be part of our animated series. So it was like loosely based on the name I chose for my YouTube channel. And we created this cute little series, and it's very cool because it features a lot of different kids. So every episode I'm with a different child, and basically I interview a kid in real life and brainstorm ideas for the episode. So we brainstorm, and then we write an episode based on 3 of the ideas that they've come up with from the interview, the real life interview. So then the child and myself are animated in the episode, and we take those 3 ideas and we put them in the mashup mixer, this machine that then transports us into an adventure. And so the show is called Gisele's Mashup Adventures, based on that.
That's so cool. And because I watched a couple of the ones with like the kids in real life, you interviewing them, and then the episode. And these kids aren't actors; these are just regular kids.
No. So here's the thing. So It's funny you say that. So no, we had to really curate our choices, because they had to they had to be ACTRA. So we had to have ACTRA actors. So they were actors, and they also had to be, just have the right personality, somebody who wants to chit chat with me, somebody creative. So so they were kids who were actors, but basically they're just kids when it came to the whole brainstorming thing. But then it was a bonus because they did an excellent job when they were actually voicing their characters, and it'd be very cool. It was so cute because they'd see their little animated character. They'd see themselves come to life as a cartoon character. Like, how cool is that?
That is really cool.
Yeah. Even for myself, I was like, that's so cool. I'm a cartoon character who would have thought? So wild to me. And it's so full circle, because back when I was like a kid, I was always drawing cartoons. And at one point I thought, like, this, when I went to pursue visual arts, I was thinking at the time, like, I'd like to draw comic books. Like, that was the other thing I wanted to do, is to be a cartoonist, is what I called it. I was always drawing little comic books. So it's just very funny, full circle, that then one day, from the art that I was drawing, to the stories I was writing, to then getting into performance, And then one day, all of those things, they all get tied together. It's so wild.
That's really cool. No, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So,
yeah.
well, I mean, one, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been awesome. And two, what, like, is there anything you want to promote? Because like the floor is yours to talk about anything, including that TV show. Anything you're working on, it's floor is yours.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Thank you. Well, right now we're working on having a second season for Giselle's Mashup Adventures. That is on, the first season is on CBC Gem and Headspinner Kids YouTube channel, which is my channel that I also partnered with Michelle on. It used to be, that was my YouTube channel before it. Anyways, so now it's Headspinner Kids. So it has a lot of other great shows on there. So you can watch Giselle's Mashup Adventures on Headspinner Kids, as well as the Gisele Mashup, which was my YouTube channel that I created during the pandemic. Also, you could see Giselle's Mashup Adventures on CBC Gem. And then, so the second season, when that comes about, then please go ahead and watch it on CBC Gem or Headspinner Kids YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Gisele, again.
And yes. Oh, one last thing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Come and find me on social media, because in the meantime, I am loving just creating content for social media. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, and I love it. It's like another way of kind of performing and being creative, and I really enjoy that. And I feel like, and I just love being in touch with, the kids who grew up with me, and I love the instant feedback and having conversations with people who grew up with me. To me, that is like the most heartwarming thing. So yeah, also find me there, please.
Yeah, and you're really active, especially on Instagram. Like you're always posting. So yeah.
I'm right into it. I'm liking it, which is so funny because I wasn't on social media at all for years until the pandemic, and not even Facebook. I joined Facebook in 2020, whereas most of my generation, they were on Facebook, right, for years.
Yeah.
And so I'm more of an Instagram, TikTok baby than Facebook. But anyway,
I love it. Well, yeah, Gisele, again, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been awesome. Like I said earlier, it's like weird that I was watching you on TV. Now I feel like I'm on the TV with you. So this was so cool. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It was fun. We chatted a lot.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, there was definitely a lot to talk about. So I appreciate you answering all my silly questions.
No, you asked great questions. Actually, it got me just made me feel relaxed, whereas I can get very nervous for chats like this. But I think it's just very comfortable because you talked about stuff that are easy for me to talk about.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, Gisele, I'll talk to you later. And yeah, thank you again. This was awesome.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Thanks so much, Quinn. Thanks everybody. Bye bye. Touch the sky.
And that was the Quinn Marr Show.